This episode of the Ageless and Awesome podcast is sponsored by the Radiant Reset Hormone Detox Guide for Perimenopausal Women. As a woman in the modern world, our hormones are taking a battering. They're impacted by the food we eat, the toxins we're exposed to, such as when we eat out of plastic takeaway containers, or even worse, reheat food in them. Please don't do this. If you're handling FPOS receipts, filling the car with fuel, eating non-organic produce that hasn't been washed effectively, plus so much more things add to our toxic load every day. Even though our bodies are designed to effectively manage toxins, they haven't evolved as quickly as our toxic world has, unfortunately. So our body does need support. Symptoms such as stubborn weight gain, fatigue, disrupted periods, irritability, and gut health issues can be a sign that you'd benefit from a gentle detox. And that's why I developed the Radiant Reset Hormone Detox Guide for Perimenopausal Women. This free guide has an abundance of information to get you started on your very own DIY detox. And if you'd like to upgrade to VIP, it's only $47 for a limited time. I used to sell this program for $247. The upgrade gives you the recipes, including plenty of plant-based options, the meal planner, the shopping list template, the video workshop, and so much more. Click the link in the show notes to learn more now. Take care of your hormones. They are a critical part of your health as a woman. Hi, I'm Susie Garden, and this is the Ageless and Awesome podcast. I'm an age-defying naturopath and clinical nutritionist, and I'm here to bust myths around women's health and aging so that you can be ageless and awesome in your 40s, 50s, and beyond. The Ageless and Awesome podcast is dedicated to helping women through perimenopause and menopause with great health, a positive mindset, and outrageous confidence. Hit subscribe or follow now, and let's get started. Hello, gorgeous one, and welcome to the Ageless and Awesome podcast. And this week, I'm going to talk about something that's coming up a lot in the calls that I have with prospective clients. Often this comes up at this time of year, which is, we're in the last week of winter. We've just had, certainly where I live in Queensland, a very warm Sunday yesterday, and today is also very, very warm. And so, we're starting to see the first glimpses of the end of winter. And this is when I'm often getting inquiries from women that are really wanting to reset themselves. They're wanting to, they're starting to think about summer, starting to think about how they're feeling in their bodies, how they're looking in their clothes, and often in winter, and I'm exactly the same. In winter, I tend to be a little bit more open to comfort food, the beautiful, heavier foods, sneaking in a little bit of extra dessert here and there, not going to my reformer classes, or even I haven't done gym since probably April, because it's just cold and you just kind of want to be in bed for a bit longer. And then all of the beautiful habits that I have formed and that I know serve me so well, serve my health, serve my mental well-being, my physical well-being so well. I just need to kind of revisit and reset. Some people like to use the word detox. That's another word you can use. That's certainly the context in which I'm using that is in terms of resetting. And I think it's something that is a really great exercise in mindfulness about your own habits and your own, journey, and often a reflection of your life journey over the year. If you've had a lot of things going on, perhaps the year hasn't gone as you've planned. I know certainly for me, the year hasn't gone as planned. I was supposed to be in Africa right now, but unfortunately due to my dog's illness, did not go. And I'm very glad that I didn't. I think that often, we're getting August, almost September, and the year is really flying by. And it's a really worthwhile exercise to really have a look at what do you want to have in your life in terms of your health and well-being and your body, and how can you make some steps towards receiving that in your life. And I love the concept of doing a reset or a detox because it gives you some, I wanted to use the word deadlines there. I guess it is some deadlines, some boundaries, some structure. I've really learned since I've worked for myself that not having boundaries and structure has not served me at all. When deadlines are flexible, then often it makes it very easy to push it back. Whereas when I was in corporate and it was other people's deadlines, I always made my deadlines. So I find it having a period of time, and this works incredibly well with women that do my Glow Protocol program because it is very structured. So it takes away that decision fatigue and it gives you a very clear timeline of what you're doing and when you're doing it. And I think doing a reset or a detox can really help with that because you're starting it on a specific day. You know it's going to go for 10 days or 14 days or whatever period of time you want it to go for. And you've got some good boundaries in place then, depending on what you want to achieve. If you want to break up with alcohol, if you want to break up with sugar, if you want to break up with caffeine, whatever those things are that you want to do, maybe it's a weight loss goal. I think that having that boundary of time can be extremely helpful. And this is a great time of year to do something like this because we're at the kind of nowhere land at the moment. I mean, we do have Father's Day coming up in Australia. We do have school holidays towards the end of September. So right now is a really good time because generally speaking, there's not a lot of kind of festive events. There might be a birthday here and there, but certainly it can be a really good time of the year that you can see clear, like a 10-day period or a 14-day period where you can really commit to doing this reset or detox. And, I mentioned before some of the goals that you might have in doing this. For example, breaking up with sugar. Now, we all know that it's not good for us. It's not good for our brain. It's not good for our microbiome in our gut. It's not good for our energy levels. It's not good for our long-term well-being when it comes to things like insulin resistance, which you've heard me talk about before on the podcast. If you're not familiar with this, just go if you've got using a podcast app that allows you to search, if you put insulin resistance in, you will find plenty of podcasts where I've talked about it, or otherwise message me and I'll tell you which ones to go and have a listen to. But it's particularly important as a woman in your 40s and 50s, actually as a man as well, because it does impact both of us, or all genders. Once we sort of hit that over 40 period, that is when our ability to process sugar in our bodies, manage our glucose and insulin levels can be a little bit more challenging. So by reducing sugar as much as we reasonably can, that will help with that a lot. It also obviously helps with weight loss in a number of different ways. But just to keep this episode really simple, reducing that sugar, particularly refined white sugar, as much as possible. But realistically, if you're putting sugar in your tea or your coffee, for example, that's a really easy one to get rid of. And it's really not good for you. Even if it's coconut sugar or brown sugar, it's all going to be nudging up your blood sugar levels in a way that's not serving you. It's going to make you hungrier later. It's going to make you overeat. It's going to give you the brain fog, all of those sorts of things. So breaking up with sugar is like a big goal for many people when they want to do a reset or a detox. Another thing I did mention, like alcohol and caffeine. Caffeine, you know what? There are benefits to having coffee and tea, particularly from a cognitive point of view, up to about 2 a day. If you're having more than 2 coffees a day, or you really feel you need coffee in order to function, then that's probably something to revisit and have a look at and go, well, all right, if I actually can't function in my day without coffee, what is going on? What is going on in my body and brain that means I'm reliant on this to keep going? Because it's probably some sort of nutritional issue. It could be a mental health issue that means that, you need to kind of have a look at that and make sure that your body's getting and your mind is getting everything that it needs. But 2 coffees a day, generally speaking, has actually got some pretty good health benefits for most people. But, I often, when I'm talking to people or starting working with people in my programs, I've had one person that was having 14 coffees a day. 14! And they just thought that was normal. It was just a constant stream of coffee all day. I had another lady recently, she was drinking probably a liter of Pepsi every day. So, that's not great. It's not great. That's a lot of caffeine on top of coffees. That's a lot of caffeine to be getting into your body. So as I said, like 2 a day is probably pretty good. There's some benefits there. But yeah, and what I would suggest too, if you are someone that's having lots and lots of caffeine, don't go cold turkey on it. Try and reduce it over a period of time by about the equivalent of half a shot a day, or every couple of days. And particularly if you have any issues like anxiety, because withdrawing caffeine suddenly can give you a sensation like you're having a panic attack if you have anxiety. But yeah, and if you don't have anxiety, but just the withdrawal from caffeine can be brutal if you don't manage it well. Like the headaches can be just horrific. So really be mindful of that. If you are thinking about giving up caffeine or just doing a bit of a reset. I think it's actually a good thing to do. I usually do a reset twice a year, and I usually try and get rid of coffee. Sometimes I don't. But when I do, I actually feel really good not having it. But I do love my coffee, having said that. So yeah, alcohol, I think revisiting our relationship with alcohol can be really beneficial, particularly if it is something that's on your mind. We know at the moment there is a real movement towards reducing alcohol. There are some pretty reasonable non-alcoholic wines, beers. I've tried a few of them. Some of them are great. Some of them are not so great. But I think, have a look at how many drinks a week are you really having? When I, talk to people, often they'll go, oh, I only drink on weekends. And then I might ask them, well, how many drinks do you have if you're drinking on a weekend? And particularly for blokes, I find that, because I do work with men as well as women, I find that often they'll say, oh, yeah, if I go to a barbecue, I might have 7 beers. And I'm like, oh, okay, over what period of time? 3 hours. That's a lot. That's a lot, particularly because most beers, if you're thinking like of a stubby, that's more than one standard drink in that. So that can really add up. And often people forget things like if they're drinking alcohol at a business lunch, for example, or if they're drinking during the week, or they might go, oh, I only have 1 or 2 glasses a night. Well, that's 14 standard drinks a week. And plus, if there's more on the weekend, which generally there is, that really does add up. And, and certainly the Australian guidelines recommend having at least 2 alcohol-free days a week. And there is actually no safe recommended amount of alcohol to have, which a lot of people are really surprised at. A lot of people kind of believe, and I think there was a lot of publicity many years ago now, I'm thinking around 20 odd years ago, around the Mediterranean diet and the fact that the Mediterranean diet includes wine with meals. And people talked about the resveratrol content of red wine, and that's why it was good for you. Well, that's kind of been debunked, that myth, and really the effect of the alcohol component of the red wine really outweighs the benefit you're getting from the resveratrol. So it's not actually a valid reason to drink wine or red wine particularly anymore. You're actually better off not having it if we're really honest. Now, I say that I do like to drink. I do. I do tend to try and keep it to weekends, and I'm really not a big drinker, but I do like it. I'm certainly not someone that says, you must stop drinking, but I think revisiting your relationship with alcohol, actually writing it down, like how many drinks am I having a week? How many alcohol-free days am I actually having? Maybe you might be drinking more than you think, and even just taking a 2-week break from alcohol, you'll probably see a really good improvement in your sleep. And we all know as perimenopausal or postmenopausal women, sleep can be a real issue. Alcohol can often help with getting you to sleep, but it generally will cause a disrupted sleep pattern. So we absolutely should see an improvement in sleep if you have a 2-week break from alcohol. A reduction in brain fog, absolutely. Because alcohol really messes with your brain biochemistry. I mean, often we think of the effects on the liver, which it does have, but the effects on your brain biochemistry are very real. And you will generally feel a real reduction in brain fog when you stop drinking alcohol, even for just 2 weeks. You should see an improvement in your energy levels. Also things like just decreased conflicts with loved ones, because as we know, when we've had a drink or two, often our perception of situations can be a little different from the reality. So I think, if you're looking at doing a reset or a detox, having alcohol-free period for at least 14 days is ideal. And then really reassessing, do I actually really need to drink what I'm drinking? Why am I drinking? Is it because my partner likes to drink and wants me as their drinking buddy? Sometimes that is part of it. In fact, I have a lot of discussions with women about that and the fact that alcohol is a big part of the relationship. So sometimes it's helpful to see if you can get your partner on board to actually do this with you and have a break from alcohol as well. But when you're doing a reset or a detox, really you want to look at rebuilding some habits that serve you, that are going to make you feel good, that are going to help you with whatever your goal is. For some people, it's they want their skin to glow, which it definitely improves. I'll never forget the first time I did a detox was with my husband, and we did 2 weeks of no caffeine, no alcohol, no sugar, lots of greens. We were juicing, we were doing all of the things. It was when I was a nutrition student and learning about all of these things. And I could not believe in just 2 weeks, the whites of his eyes were noticeably whiter. I found that just extraordinary, really noticeably whiter, and his teeth were noticeably whiter as well. I found it more difficult to see that in myself, but it was very, very noticeable for him. So just a couple of weeks makes a huge difference. And when you can rebuild some habits that serve you, whether your goal is focusing on your skin health, maybe your goal might be to improve your sleep. Maybe your goal is to bring back in some movement that you love. For me, particularly, that's one of my things, particularly with, as you know, I've had a recent diagnosis of osteopenia. So right now I'm looking, okay, how can I get into the gym at least 2 to 3 times a week and lift some heavy weights? And I still haven't, even though I'm motivated, I still haven't taken the steps to bring that into my schedule. So that's something I'm focusing on in the next week or two. Other things, like really easy things you can bring in, like increasing your water intake. You remember my calculation, 35 mils of water per kilo of body weight per day is what you should be aiming for. It can be quite a lot. probably more than you're actually drinking right now. Increasing fruits and veggies. If you're not having your 5 and 2, so to speak, your 5 serves of veggies and 2 serves of fruit, how can you get that in? Maybe even making yourself a little plan for a week of what you're going to eat. Maybe your goal is to work on relationships. Maybe you want more friendships. Maybe you want more social events in your calendar. Maybe you want to spend more time with family. Maybe you want to improve communication with your partner. All of this can be part of a reset. Bring them on board so that you've got that support and they have your support. It can be really, really helpful. Also, maybe self-care is part of that. Maybe you're feeling stressed. Maybe there's been, as I mentioned earlier, a lot going on this year that you didn't expect. And your stress levels are high. And maybe you just want to focus on that. And maybe that comes in the form of doing a 3 minutes of deep breathing every morning and every night. Or maybe that's going for a walk in nature once a week, or joining a local walking group so that you're meeting some new people. There's lots of people. What I've really noticed this year, there's a real craving for connection. I have met so many new women this year through reaching out through social Facebook groups. It's been amazing. So maybe have a look. If you're not sure how to meet new people, just go into Facebook and just put in something like social club and put your suburb or put your city and see what comes up. There'll definitely be ones up there, and you can join a few groups and see which ones you resonate with. That might be part of your reset. It's like, right, I'm going to have an amazing social life. But yeah, if you are looking for support, you probably know I do have, as obviously the Glow Protocol is my big kahuna, my big gun if you want big results with your goals. But I also have a shorter program, the Radiant Reset Detox, for perimenopausal women. It's also great for postmenopausal. It's actually good for any sort of hormone imbalance. And that is, I've got a free version where you get the guide and you can DIY, or for a small payment, it's $47. You get all the recipes, the meal plans, the shopping list templates, so many more resources. There's a video workshop, all of the things. And that's just $47. So I'll make sure the link is in the show notes, because now is a great time. If you do want to do something like this, now's the time before you get distracted with holidays. Then the festive season is going to be honest before you know it. And then it's going to be holidays, etc., etc. So yeah, if you have any questions, please do give me a message. You can message directly through Spotify. You can email me hello@susiegarden.com. You can book in an introduction call if you want to have a chat on the phone, if you're international, via Zoom, particularly if you've got weight loss goals, if you've got some significant hormonal symptoms that you want addressed, and you want to work with me for 3 months pretty intensively, then that's available to you as well. So anyway, I hope you're enjoying your week so far. I'll be back on Thursday with Q&A. If you do have a question you want me to answer, I would love to hear from you. Thanks so much for joining me today on the Ageless and Awesome podcast. If you liked today's episode, please make sure you click the little plus button if you're on Apple Podcasts, or the follow button if you're on Spotify, so that you get each new episode delivered to you every week. If you like free stuff, then head to the show notes and click the link to receive my free Radiant Reset Hormone Detox Guide for perimenopausal women. Or if you'd like to continue the discussion, head over to Instagram and DM me @SusieGardenWellness. I'd love to connect with you.